Good morning, and welcome to my extremely backlit home. And just in case you were curious, yes, that is a glass Christmas tree. And that is a real Christmas tree. Well, it's not real. It's made out of plastic, but it's real in my heart. And there's nothing wrong with keeping a Christmas tree up during the entire year, okay? And don't let anybody tell you anything different. But anyway, 28 days of no sugar. It's been pretty awesome so far. And I want to share with you guys the precise ingredients you need to avoid in order to be 100% successful, why fat is another culprit in being thin and healthy, and also some of the more benefits that I've experienced thus far. So in order to completely avoid sugar, you really have to be a bit of an ingredient reading ninja. It's not enough to just avoid the obvious things like soda and candy. You gotta know what's going in your foods because, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, sugar is in everything. I was in the grocery store just the other day and I looked through pretty much every single bread brand that they have, and there wasn't a single one that didn't have any sugar. And I know that I've said that bread is a soft no, so, ultimately it wasn't a big deal, but I just wanted to see if there was any brand in that grocery store that I could eat or that I could confidently eat that had no sugar. But nope. There was an entire wall of bread, and not a single one of them had zero sugar. So that's just a little bit of an idea of what we in the modern world are up against if we're trying to live a sugar-free life. I'm moving my camera to the coffee table because I don't want the constant bouncing and shaking when it's put on my legs. So anyway, the very first ingredient that you want to avoid at all costs is called sucrose, also known as table sugar. Sucrose is the ingredient that most people think of when they think of bad or processed or added sugar. There are many names for it, but sucrose is found in basically all the obvious forms of sugar: soda, candy, cakes, etc. So if you're trying to be sugar-free, get rid of all the sucrose. The second ingredient that is a bit more sneaky is called dextrose. Now, dextrose is found in mostly processed foods, and a lot of it is found in chips. So if you want to be totally sugar-free, you got to start checking chips off the list as well. So for me, that means avoiding Doritos and Cheetos and certain forms of Lay's, actually. Basically, the only kind of chips that you can eat if you want to be completely sugar-free are original Lay's and Fritos. I haven't found any other kind of chips that are completely sugar-free except for those two. So, yeah, it's brutal out there if you want to be sugar-free. A third one that is even sneakier than dextrose is called maltodextrin. There is various opinions on whether or not maltodextrin is harmful or even if it's considered a sugar. This is one thing that I've learned about from being about 28 days free of sugar, is that there's a lot of various opinions out there. You'd think that with something like nutrition or with any particular scientific field it would be fairly black and white, but it's not. It's not at all. And I'm sure for any of you guys that are watching that have a scientific background, you're kind of laughing at me right now to think that anything involving medicine is black and white. But as someone who never really excelled in science and had no plans at all of pursuing it past my junior year in high school, I just kind of assumed that, well, it's a scientific method and it's based off of hard evidence, so surely it's black and white, right? It's not at all. Notwithstanding all the politics that are involved in modern medicine. But that's a different topic. If you want to be 100% sugar-free, you probably are going to want to avoid maltodextrin as well. It's basically the same thing as dextrose, although it's found in lesser it's found in lesser quantities. It's found less often than dextrose. The last ingredient that you probably want to avoid, and probably even more severely than dextrose or maltodextrin, is called high fructose corn syrup. This one is a bit more popular in the sense that it's more firmly in the consciousness of American minds. So it's more obvious, and I think we all know that we should avoid high fructose corn syrup. But this is literally one of the worst things you could put in your body. It is found in its largest quantity in soda. And I think, again, I've said this many times before. I feel like a lot of these videos are me just kind of repeating myself. But at the same time, it's worth repeating. The fact that soda is one of the worst things you could put in your body. Because not only does it have high fructose corn syrup and caffeine, which dehydrates you and makes you want to drink more soda, but high fructose corn syrup is typically paired with aspartame, which is literally poison. okay? And I'm not exaggerating. Like, this stuff is actually poison. Of course, it's in such minimal amounts that your system can handle it, but it is probably the worst thing you can put, or one of the worst things you can put in your body that's like accepted as a food, like something that is readily available to the public. So you're going to want to avoid high fructose corn syrup, and you're definitely going to want to avoid aspartame. I'm just throwing that in as a little bonus. It's not technically a sugar, at least I don't think it is, but just get it out, okay? Get it out. On to the second point about how fat is another culprit of wanting a flat stomach. Now, in my first video, when I mentioned that I didn't like what I saw in the mirror anymore, I primarily focused on my stomach, on my spare tire. I didn't like how big it had gotten. And over the course of these past 28 days, my stomach has indeed gotten much flatter. And of course, that is indicative of how many calories I was getting from processed sugar. However, now that sugar has been out of my diet for almost a month now, I know that another large piece of the puzzle in terms of in terms of figuring out how big my stomach is how much fat I consume. I use, what is it called? MyFitnessPal, which is a pretty great app, highly recommended. And I try to keep track of how many grams of fat I have a day. Currently, I have it set on the app that I'm trying to lose a pound a week. So that puts me at, based off of my body weight, my age, my gender, my caloric intake, that puts me at 61 grams of fat a day. That might sound like a lot to some of you people, but quite honestly, in America, you can eat 61 grams of fat easily. I had Sonic the other day, and I got a double cheeseburger with fries, and that was like 56 grams of fat. It really is astounding, like how much fat there is in American food, and I mean not just American food, but particularly in American food. Once you start keeping track of it, even several months ago, before I started the sugar-free journey, I remember spreading some butter on toast and just kind of like, for the heck of it, trying to keep track of how much fat was in it. And not even really thinking anything of it. I was like, oh, maybe there's like 15, 20 grams of fat, whatever. It was like 35 plus grams of fat with like 2 little slices of butter. It was amazing. So if you're wanting to really look good, if you're wanting to really take advantage of good health, and you're wanting to really take control of how healthy your body is, I recommend also tracking how much fat you're consuming, because it's just amazing. Like, getting sugar out is a huge part, but getting control of how much fat you're eating, that will really blow your mind. So most of the benefits that I mentioned in the third video, the last video that I posted, have pretty much stayed the same. My mood is still pretty good, my focus is still pretty good, my voice is still more resonant than it was. All these good things are kind of compounding on themselves, and they're still going, which is fantastic. However, there is still more benefits that are being added to my life that I have not necessarily observed until now. One of them, and I've experienced this benefit before when I've gone sustained periods of time without sugar, or even short periods of time, is that I am quicker with thoughts and words. It might sound a bit odd, but like, even right now as I'm recording this video, like the amount of times that I stop and start are significantly less. The amount that I have to script is significantly less. I can just kind of think what I want to say, and boom, it comes out. I don't necessarily have to plan as much of what I'm going to say. And this is true with conversations as well. I stutter a whole lot less. I don't search for the right words as often as I usually do. And I know in these videos I do that anyway. I stutter and I kind of stop and go, but that's just kind of the nature of my brain. But I'm just saying that I do it a whole lot less than I would if I was actually on sugar. And I would also say that I'm a bit funnier. Like, I'm really not trying to toot my own horn here. I mean, I consider myself, I enjoy trying to be funny. I like, telling jokes, and I like to make people laugh. I love making people laugh. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm comfortable, doing this YouTube channel and my other YouTube channel. Just because I enjoy entertaining people. I enjoy making them laugh, But I honestly feel as if, like, my wit is a bit sharper. And I guess this just kind of comes along with my brain functioning better in terms of my speech skills and in terms of my thinking skills. So I'm just able to sort of piece things together a bit more, and I'm able to come up with something witty. It's just easier for me to do so. I'm not saying that like suddenly I'm Jerry Seinfeld. I'm just saying that like it's easier for me to do so now that I'm off of sugar. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope that you are inspired. That's the main goal of all these videos. I want to inspire you guys to take control of your health and to go on a similar journey that I am. It doesn't have to be my journey. I mean, it can be whatever you want. I just want people to know that they can do it, know that they can live a healthier, happier life in 2021 amidst a pandemic. And even if it wasn't a pandemic, getting control of your eating in the United States has always been difficult, but I feel like these days it's more difficult than ever. So I hope that these videos inspire you to make a change. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned for more updates.